Good evening, folks. This is Bob from BBD on this lovely 25th of August, Tuesday. Today, three different subjects. Interesting. The first one, obviously, is something that has taken taken the news totally away, and that's this. Family loyalists slam dissenters, say timing of letter insensitive. I think I just don't understand how this government does it. Every time you really need to focus on the real issues, whether it's the economy, whether it's the running away COVID, or whether it's the China issue, we come up with a new drama. Whether it was Rajasthan, that took almost a week away, but now it's now a month away. Now this is going to go on forever, because when you look at the channels, all they're talking about, Congress. But let's say this, folks. The timing of the letter, I think, worked more in favor of the government than it worked for the Congress, right? And what the end result, at the end of the day, Congress stays with the family, which are outnumbered and isolated dissenters, which is extremely shameful. Then you have a report which says RG loyalist minister threatened Vasnik, Chavan and Deora. And this really is the problem with all these what I'd call chamchas in his kitchen cabinet, which really, with no responsibility at all, they end up just ruining everything for the Congress. Now, but here's important for all of us. Congress, is it important? It is critical for India's democracy. Absolutely critical. It's well spread. It's one of the few other parties outside of the BJP that's pan-Indian. It's the only one that can actually defend against a rampaging authoritarian government, even though it's a democracy. Are the Gandhis necessary for the Congress? Absolutely not. Are the Gandhis necessary for India? Absolutely nada. But the Congress is. Congress is actually an incredible asset, just like Air India. Air India has gone to shambles, gone to the dogs. So has the Congress. So what's the way out for the Congress? If it was a company, right, at this stage, with the kind of assets and the spread it sits on in politics, I would actually suggest a hostile takeover. And it's something what Indira Gandhi did when she created Congress I. It's something that needs to be done today. Obviously, you need guts and glory with some of these 23 people that are there. But more importantly, you need bags load of money. Once I've acquired parts of the Congress, or the bigger chunk of the Congress, I would then go into a merger and acquisition spree. Who would my mergers and acquisition targets be? It will be the NCP, everybody that had something to do with the Congress, and that's almost, if you look at it, almost everybody. You have NCP, right? You have TMC, you have Jagamohan Reddy's YSR Congress will be my first targets. But I would also go and merger and acquisition for the RJD, for the Samajwadi Party, for the DMK, for the National Conference. It's time to think big. I mean, this is totally out of the box. It's something that I fantasize about, right? But if you had the money, this company, this is going cheap. Really, really cheap in my view. The way that the Congress otherwise is selling out and running to the BJP, you can buy them for a song, actually, right? All right. Having done that, but let's just conclude by saying the Congress is critical for the democracy of our nation. The second topic, which I find very interesting, is the issue of Prashant Bhushan. He's not my favorite guy, but this contempt law is an anachronistic law from the Raj era, created by Macaulay to protect the British rulers against the Indians. Now what this has created is ogres in the space. All the guys who reach some position develop thin skins, massive egos, undeserved reputations just because of their position, and then they use these against anybody and everybody. This has got to be the far most destructive law that needs to be canned and binned immediately. And there has to be a people's movement against this. So, like this TK Arun writes, The contempt finding in the Prashant Bhushan case serves to reinforce the notion of respect as something that attaches hierarchical positions. And that should not be the case. It should be deserved and it should be respected. You should be deserving of the respect. As he says, they see the contempt ruling against him as an attack on free speech, the use of public criticism, and an instrumentality of institutional accountability. In India's constitutional scheme of things, the Supreme Court plays a special role. It is expected to rein in the executive when the executive treads on citizens' constitutional rights, of which free speech is one of the most important. Free speech is not the right to sing praises of those in power, but the right to tell the bitter truth, to criticize and raise dissent. If the Supreme Court proves incapable of suffering criticism of itself, it erodes public confidence in its ability to protect the citizens' right to criticize the executive. Very critical, Then and very well written, right? Then it says, India is a society where the traditional social values of hierarchy and subordination of the subaltern rungs of the hierarchy to those above them has deep roots. And this also has something to do with our kowtowing to China. Just let me tell you. Yesterday this was a question that was asked, but this is one of the key is this insidious traditional social values of hierarchy and Gurukul. This Gurukul and Guru business is just putting the lid on major development in India. Then you have Chanakya, who writes, with due respect, your lordship, and he makes some very important points in the Hindustan Times. Institutions which have fulfilled constitutional obligations. Among these institutions, India's independent judiciary occupies a place of pride. For the most part, it has defended individual liberty and protected fundamental rights. It has expanded the idea of justice and pushed the state to support the vulnerable. It has resolved disputes between the state and citizens, and between states. It has stood as a pillar in defense of the basic structure of the Constitution. Basic structure of the Constitution. It's gotten down, totally swamped with in the recent past with a lot of financial cases and commercial cases, which I think is just taking the time away. You should actually have a separate court for that, right? And that is why a robust and independent judiciary is so critical to India's constitutional functioning. What is the funny thing that is important that has been found, right? A paper which was written in 2017, Jobs for Justice, Corruption in the Supreme Court of India, by Madhav Ane, Subhankan Dam and Giovanni Co, based on a data set of all Supreme Court judgments between 1999 and 2014 involving the government, found that authoring judgments in favor of the governments had a positive association with the likelihood of a prestigious post-SC retirement job. Our analysis suggests that the prospect of being appointed to government's position after retirement could be a way in which the executive exercises control over an otherwise independent judiciary. If what is true for the judiciary is also not getting to be true for the armed forces and also getting to be true for the civil servants, because almost everybody is either hankering for governorship or becoming some other job from the government, and that's what's debilitating and corrupting our system, whether it's the armed forces, whether it's the civil services, and whether it's the judiciary. And this is something we have to be very careful about. And he says, India's judiciary is a key pillar which has to be fiercely independent and be seen as such. And it's about time, I think, that they lived up to this requirement, right? And as Pavan K. Verma writes, contempt sedition. We need a more open mind. And he's right. One must give it to Macaulay for a remarkable act of drafting in insulating the colonial government against any attack. But we are a sovereign democratic republic. Surely laws like this erode the very democracy, and they've reached a sell-by date. So here, and there's an article by Maruli Krishnan which says, contempt of court provision vague. The definition of criminal contempt on the ground of scandalizing the court is very vague. The word scandalizing must be, in fact, forget clarification. I think it should be just killed. It should be shot dead. So it was really encouraging to see what one saw was relief for Sawara as AG refuses action. What he says is AG refuses to okay filing of contempt plea against Sawara. No attack on SC. It needn't be extra sensitive. And I think these are very important. Very important statement, and I'm told that if K.N. Venugopal was actually not there, had he been there, he would not have allowed this case to go forward, this contempt case against Bhushan to go forward. But somehow they managed to squig. He was not there, or they worked its way around it, and this is what happened. But you know, High Court continues to do some good work. Many judgments from the High Court have come out, where this recent one is also quite encouraging. Scapegoats, says HC, as it lets off 34 Talibagis. And this is very important. It says that these guys have made, they've been made scapegoats for nothing, and they deserve better. They were guests, right? So the High Court continues to, in my view, do laudable work. Supreme Court really has to at least give the impression that it's independent, right? Now, after what I said about China and about the only options we have, and is another article by Claude RP, who writes a lot on the Tibet-India border, says signs of trouble in central sector 2. And this is what we said yesterday. If you don't take note of what is happening in Ladakh and you let them get away, your next is they've kept it quiet. Then the central sector, which is here, which is all across Uttarakhand and Chuje near Sumdo, in Kinnaur, in Himachal Pradesh. So all across, they have a plan. You give in here, they're going to take there. And that is something that currently it's now a political decision. Why is it a political decision? Because, as our chief has said, military options are open if China talks fail, says that. In my view, let's make a call. The China talks have totally failed. And what tells you that? Because all of us, you have these articles like this by Imtiaz Ahmed. China dismissed Indian claims over Valley, says Park Minister. Who the hell is China to dismiss this? And who is the stupid Park Minister telling us that, right? This is what I'm saying. You give in to China, you're actually making a subservient of yourself to even Pakistan. And there lies the real truth. As you can see, there it continues. In boost to ties, China launches advanced warships for Pakistan. So they're not giving up. It's only we are being delusional. We keep avoiding, being smacked left. We want to be smacked right. And here, I'm glad, but these are long-term goals. India plans infra upgrade in island territories. We actually should have done it a long time ago. But anyway, as I say, Der Ai Drushtai, it works. It sends a signal, sends a message. But the point of the right now is what we do physically in Galwan. That's the real Makwai. That's where the mettle of this Prime Minister is going to be challenged. Right? Coming to some other basic news, lots of talk about what's his name, the gentleman who died, the actor. Why has that happened? Rajput. Why has that happened? It seems pretty clear. It's political. Why? Because Bihar, he's got a very influential family. But the bigger issue is this government's desire to nail Aditya Thakre. And that's really a shame. Right? However, we do know that the Bollywood is a cesspool of corruption, cesspool of connections with Dawood Ibrahim and that gang, and it's this nexus between politicians, cops, Bollywood, and Dawood Ibrahim's gangs that has actually destroyed Bollywood, and it needs a cleanup. But this really is this CBI inquiry is really going to go nowhere, right? Till the Bihar elections actually, or till Aditya jumps ship and goes back to BJP. Here, this is a note that causes all the problem all the time. Amol against dairy concessions to US. I think we should give. I don't think we should grow up on this one. Right? We should take equally from the United States and say if your dairy is to be allowed into India under the same conditions, our dairy has to be allowed into the United States. Believe me, your buffalo milk will sing. I'm not sure why we take these defeatist attitudes. Jai Hind, ladies and gentlemen. Today's news is over.